Good morning, students. So today I'm going to be going over today's notes as well as the classwork, just because I'm catching a couple things that I'm seeing a lot of people do several times. So this is a great opportunity to review and discuss. So looking at the notes, we're not going to see major changes. We're still talking about functions. So we're using the input, which is the x, and we're creating the output. The functional notation is that f of x, so that's how we're getting it. It's just a way to organize functions. And we've been working with functions, again, for a really long time, but we haven't really put a word to it. So now we have the word. We know we're working with functions, and that's when every input, the x, has only one output. So looking at the steps, we identify the new x. Step 2 is we substitute for the x using parentheses, which is extremely important. Step 3 is going to be solving on the right-hand side, and the right-hand side is the output. So we have the x. I'm just going to highlight it right here. X equals 3 in my example in the steps. That's my input. 3 is my input, and we're figuring out what is the output. This equation gives it to me, the -2, and then with the parentheses, 3 plus 3. And then all you do is solve it. So with the input of 3, we have the output of -3. And that's what we're going to continue practicing. You no longer have to write out what it means. So looking at my example, oops, I scrolled too far. We have f of x equals -7x minus 1, and x equals 3. So my first step is to identify my new x. I'm just going to highlight that first. I'm going to highlight it in purple for Liz. Then I'm going to identify all my x's. So you're always going to substitute into the f of x. It's actually a way to organize. So that's what I did here. So it's, oops, I'm going to lowercase that. F of 3 equals -7 times 3 minus 1. So this is something I'm actually first mistake I want to point out. If you do not see anything just outside the parentheses, that automatically means that it is in fact multiplication. So it's -7 times 3. And then we're going to minus 1. And we're going to use our PEMDAS rules. And so PEMDAS is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and then subtraction, which means I will do the multiplication first. -7 times 3, if I did quick calculations, equals -21. -21 minus 1 equals -22. So this is the f of 3 equals -22. And that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of them. So first thing I'm going to do is look at number 1. We have f of x equals -7x minus 1, x equals 1. So f of 1 equals -7 in parentheses 1, because again, x equals 1. So everywhere I see x, I put 1 minus 1. Now I'm just going to start simplifying. I want you to put the simplification. I don't actually know why. Oh, I know. 1 second. So now I'm going to simplify further. So -7 times 1 equals -7. I'm going to be doing all the work out. If you're using the calculations, you might just have this final answer here. F of 1, I'm going to type correctly, -7 minus 1. Remembering my integer rules, I have two negative numbers. I'm subtracting, which means it gets smaller. So it's -8. That's it. So this is the final answer. Some of you who are using calculators will just have this because you'll just be typing in the -7 times 1 minus 1. I cannot emphasize enough. This right here means multiplication. So it's -7 times 1. And then you're going to subtract the 1 afterwards. So let's look at the next one. So we have f of x equals -7. Did I just write the same thing? Oh, no, I didn't. Here we go. We have the x equals 0. I apologize, guys. So we have f of x equals -7x minus 1. This time x equals 0. So, and they're doing this for a reason. We're going to discuss why all the x's are changing, but the equation's staying. So we have f of, typing, ladies and gentlemen, typing is hard for me. We have f of 0 equals -7 substituting 0 in my parentheses minus that 1. Excellent. Going down. I'm going to be writing out all the steps for you. You do not have to. If you plugged in the calculator, that's awesome. -7 times 0, because again, that's our first thing to do, equals 0. And then I'm going to subtract the 1. So that means f of 0 equals -1. Moving right along. So now we're seeing the exact same equation. Again, I'll discuss later why. Then we have x equals -1 this time. So we have to be very careful to not leave that negative of the -1 behind. So we have a negative before the -7, a negative in the subtraction, as well as now x equals -1. So we have to make sure to include all those negatives or we'll get the wrong answer. So we have f of -1 equals -7, remembering my first one, -1 in parentheses, this is my substitution, -1. Now I'm going to start simplifying. Again, some of you will be using calculators, so you will not be doing the simplifying step. -7 times -1. Negative times a negative equals a positive. 7 times 1 equals 7. -1. Final answer, -1. F of -1 equals 7 minus 1, which equals 6. That one was too bad. Looking at 4, so again with negatives everywhere, so we have to remember f of x equals -7 minus 1, and this time x equals 2. So let's start setting up. F of -2 equals -7, in parentheses, -2 minus 1. Now I'm going to start showing my steps. I have f of -2 equals -7 times -2. Negative times a negative equals a positive. 7 times 2 equals 14 minus 1. So this means my final solution is -2 equals 13. So f of -2 equals 13. Last but not least, let's bring it home. Again, I gave you another negative. So we have a -7, subtract 1, and a -10. We got to bring them all together because we want to make sure that we have all the pieces. So we have f of -10 equals -7, my first of my negatives. Input -10 in parentheses, so -7 times -10, remembering that the parentheses and the number right outside the parentheses always equals multiplication, minus 1 at the end. I'm going to do my calculations. F of -10 equals negative times negative equals a positive. 7 times 10 equals 70. Oops, 70 minus 1. So that means f of -10, catching up with my typing because I type a little slow, is 69. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, never hesitate to ask. I will be obviously on the computer all day. Feel free to email me, misshanleyteaches@gmail, or you can add to the comments. I know some of you are more comfortable with the comments, and some of you don't ask questions at all, but I want to make sure to say out loud, always ask me questions. And I look forward to grading your work tomorrow.